The midday sun cast long shadows over the street as the city bustled with the usual afternoon chaos. People were in a hurry, children played on sidewalks, and cars honked in the busy traffic. But for Officer Frank Carter, today was no ordinary day. Today, he was about to make a decision that would change his life forever, and the life of a young boy. Officer Carter had always believed in the authority he held as a cop. He saw himself as someone who kept order in the streets, someone who enforced the law with pride. His approach had always been rough, aggressive, methods that worked to intimidate those who challenged him. He didn't think much about it. To him, power and control were his rights, his tools to keep people in line. But today, that belief was about to be tested in a way he never expected. It started when he saw Jalen Turner, a 14-year-old black boy, walking down the street with his friends. Jalen, with his backpack slung over one shoulder, had been talking to his friends when Officer Carter approached him. The cop's tone was sharp, aggressive from the moment he stepped up. "Hey!" Carter barked at Jalen. "Where are you going?" Jalen stopped, confused and a little scared. He had done nothing wrong, but the cop's demeanor made him tense up. "I'm just walking home, sir," he replied cautiously, his voice trembling slightly. Carter wasn't having it. "You think I'm stupid? You've been loitering here long enough," he sneered, stepping closer to Jalen, his hands on his hips. Jalen stepped back, trying to put some distance between himself and the officer. "I wasn't doing anything, sir, just going home." But Officer Carter wasn't listening. He reached out, grabbed Jalen by the arm, and yanked him forward. "Let go of me!" Jalen shouted, struggling against the officer's grip. Officer Carter tightened his hold, his face twisting with anger. "You think you can talk back to me?" he growled. The scene was unfolding quickly, and before Jalen could react, the officer slapped him across the face, hard. The sound echoed through the street. It was an unprovoked, vicious slap. The blow sent Jalen stumbling backward, his cheeks stinging, his eyes wide with shock and pain. The group of friends who had been walking with him froze, their mouths hanging open in disbelief. But what Carter didn't know was that he wasn't just messing with any ordinary young boy. Jalen's father, Chief Elijah Turner, was standing in the background, watching. He had been walking just a few steps behind his son, oblivious to the situation unfolding in front of him. He had been hoping for a quiet afternoon, but what he saw next shook him to his core. Chief Turner's eyes narrowed as he stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the officer who had just slapped his son. The moment the slap landed, everything seemed to slow down. Jalen's face, stunned and humiliated, was all Chief Turner needed to see. His blood boiled with a rage he hadn't felt in years. As Carter raised his hand again to hit Jalen, the chief's voice cut through the tension. "That's enough." Officer Carter turned sharply at the sound of the voice, his hand still poised in the air. The fury on the chief's face was unmistakable. He had seen enough in his years of service to know exactly what was happening here, and he wouldn't allow it to continue. Carter took a step back, confused at first. "What? What's the problem here?" he stammered, trying to regain control of the situation. "You just slapped my son," Chief Turner said calmly, but with a cold, terrifying precision that made Carter's chest tighten. "And you don't even know who you're talking to." At that moment, Carter's confusion turned into realization. The man standing before him, calm and authoritative, wasn't just any bystander. This was Chief Elijah Turner, the chief of police. The realization hit Carter like a ton of bricks. His face turned pale as he looked down at Jalen, then back up to the chief. You're the chief?" "I am," Turner said, his voice carrying a weight that sent a chill down Carter's spine. Carter's hand faltered. The power he once felt now seemed distant, overshadowed by the man standing in front of him. He had made a fatal mistake. The tension in the air was thick. Officer Carter, standing a few feet from Chief Elijah Turner, now realized the enormity of his mistake. The slap he had dealt to Jalen, a young boy who had done nothing wrong, had just triggered the wrath of someone he should have respected. someone with power he had never imagined. The chief stood tall, calm, but with a fury in his eyes that was hard to miss. The street was eerily quiet now, with onlookers staring at the scene unfolding before them. Jalen, still shaken, remained behind his father, glancing up at him with a mix of gratitude and confusion. "Do you realize who you just laid your hands on?" Chief Turner's voice was measured, but the weight of it hit Carter like a freight train. "You don't touch my son. Not like that, and not ever again." Carter opened his mouth to speak, but words failed him. He had been raised to believe he was above others, that the badge he wore protected him from consequences no matter what he did. He had never once imagined a world where a man like Chief Turner would be his equal, let alone his superior. The realization was swift, and it hit him with a force he wasn't prepared for. I didn't know," Carter stammered, trying to defend his actions, but the words seemed weak, hollow. I thought he was just some kid, you know. He was being disrespectful." Disrespectful. The chief's voice was now louder, a ripple of anger coursing through him. "You slap a child because you think he's disrespectful? That's not discipline. That's abuse." Jalen flinched at the harsh words, but he knew his father wasn't wrong. Officer Carter had crossed a line that no child, let alone anyone, should ever have to face. He looked up at his father, his eyes filled with admiration. In that moment, Jalen realized the strength of the man who stood before him, the man who had raised him, the man who had fought battles far more dangerous than the one unfolding in front of him. "You've made a grave error today," Chief Turner continued, his voice low and firm. "But the real mistake here isn't just what you did to my son, it's what you've done to countless others who don't have the voice or power to stand up. It's what you represent. A broken system, a system that allows people like you to abuse your power without consequence." Carter's stomach churned. The weight of the chief's words sunk in deeper with every passing second. This wasn't just about one slap. It was about a systemic issue that stretched far beyond him. He was just one cog in a much larger machine. "I'm sorry, sir, Carter's voice faltered, but he didn't finish. His apology felt hollow, useless. Chief Turner wasn't listening. The damage was done, and nothing could undo it. "Sorry doesn't cut it, officer," Chief Turner replied coldly. "But I'll tell you what will, I'm reporting this. And I'm not just reporting it to your department. I'm going straight to internal affairs. I'm taking this all the way up, and I won't stop until you face the consequences of your actions." Jalen's heart pounded in his chest. His father wasn't just talking about getting Carter suspended or disciplined. The chief was talking about exposing the system that allowed officers like Carter to act with impunity. He was talking about real change, something Jalen hadn't seen much of in his life but always hoped for. The crowd that had gathered was watching in stunned silence. Some were filming, others were whispering, but all of them were witnesses to the reckoning unfolding before them. Jalen could hear murmurs, but his focus remained on his father. "You've lost your job, Carter," Chief Turner said, his voice unyielding. "And when I'm done with this, you'll never wear a badge again. You'll never have the power to hurt another child, another person again. You'll be exposed for what you are." The finality in his voice made Carter's knees feel weak. He had crossed a line, and now there was no way back. The chief's resolve was unbreakable, and Carter knew it. The officers who had been standing by, watching silently, began to shift uneasily. No one had dared to question someone in power, but now they were seeing the courage it took to do so. As Chief Turner turned to leave, he placed a firm hand on Jalen's shoulder. "Let's go home, son," he said softly. The anger in his voice had cooled, but his determination remained. Jalen nodded, but he couldn't help the swell of pride that rose within him. His father wasn't just a man of authority. He was a man who fought for justice. As they walked away from the scene, Carter stood frozen, his future slipping out of his hands, realizing the impact of his actions. In that brief moment, He had underestimated the power of justice and the strength of a father's love. Later that evening, the story would spread like wildfire. The news, the videos, and the public outcry would reach the right ears. Officer Carter's career was over. He had become the face of the very